Hi VC, hi YouTube, it's Rob here with another video. Thanks for joining me. And I've got some new vinyl to show on this video. I've not done a finds video for quite a few months, so stuff's building up, so I've got a lot to show, so I better get cracking. First album I want to show is the debut album by the Feelies from 1980. Crazy Rhythms. So the Feelies, an American band who are from New Jersey. This is on Stiff Records. I'll show you the label. So I've got stuff from record fairs, record shops in Manchester, car boot sales. So I've been busy. And this album is one that in 1980 I'd not heard of. It's only over the last sort of 5 years, maybe since watching videos on YouTube, people in America showing the records. And I saw this album a number of times, so it kind of piqued my interest. It's not an album that I'd seen in the UK before. So I'd streamed it, given it a listen, and really liked it. But I don't buy records from Discogs or eBay. If I did that, I'd just spend a fortune. So I just rely on being lucky. And I was out in Derbyshire, one of my favourite record shops in New Mills, and I was flicking through and I saw this. Yeah, I thought, yeah, I'm going to pick it up. So I paid about 27 quid for it. It's an original copy, but I think that Johnny Marr maybe listened to this album, because I can hear Smith's guitars on this album. I can also hear a little bit of Orange Juice as well. It's a really good listen. And the Feelies, they sort of, I think they released an album in about 86, and then they split up and then they got back together again. They've released quite a few albums over the last 10 years, and I've listened to them and they're pretty good. So this is certainly a good starting point. Debut album from 1980, Crazy Rhythms by the Feelies. I've got quite a lot of American music actually, and the B-52's next with an album from 1989, Cosmic Thing. So I picked this up from a record fair for a tenner. As I say, I've been listening to quite a lot of 80s music this year. There's a label, 80s music and jazz. I bought a lot of jazz this year. Not expensive jazz, but I have added quite a bit of jazz to my collection. But this year really has been a bit of an 80s year for me. And B-52's released some good albums in the 80s. This has got Love Shack on it, and you know, that's played out for me. But it's got the single Rome on here, and Deadbeat Club is my favourite track on the album. But it's a strong album by the B-52s from 1989. I like the cover as well. Cosmic Thing by the B-52s. Another album, I like the cover, from 1979 is this album, The Raincoats. Debut album, all girl band, released in November 1979. It does come in a paper sleeve, and there are videos on YouTube showing you how to take a record out of a paper sleeve. So I'm going to be very careful. But it's some kind of a bit of a smoky grey vinyl. I've been looking for an original copy, but I'd given up, so I ended up picking up this repress from Amazon. But this came out in '79, which was a pretty turbulent time in the UK. And the members of the Raincoats were squatting in London, and they'd been to see the Slits. One of the actual members of the Slits was an early member of the Raincoats. There's saxophone on here. It's pretty out there, certainly class it as post-punk. There was a lot of sort of female bands around, female fronted bands in the late 70s, early 80s, with Susie and the Banshees, Kleenex, Polly Murray, X-Ray Specs, etc. But the Raincoats, this is a really good album. Please have it in the collection. Another album with a really nice jacket from 1989 is Lou Reed in New York. So I'm not the biggest Lou Reed fan. I've given quite a few of his albums away as VCLT, but I think we're pretty close to the 50th anniversary of Transformer, which is a Lou Reed album that I do like. And I've streamed this album a few times and enjoyed it. It's on Sire, and it's one that I thought if I see it for a good price, I'd pick it up. And I was at a record fair, and pretty nice copy available for a tenner, so I picked it up. So yeah, New York by Lou Reed. I picked up this album, I think it's from maybe about 2019. It's Weezer and the Teal album. So as I said, I've been going through a bit of a 80s renaissance, and there's quite a lot of 80s cover versions on this album. This is my first Weezer album on vinyl. There's the label. But there's an interesting mixture of cover versions on here. Some of them work, some of them don't. My favourite track on here is probably the opening track, Africa. I think they do a really good job of that. Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Sweet Dreams, Take On Me. Happy Together, the Turtles song, doesn't quite work for me. On the B side, we've got Paranoid, Mr. Blue Sky, so it's far from perfect. But they do a good version of the TLC track, No Scrubs. Billie Jean, and it ends up with Stand By Me. So there's the track listing. And it's an album I've been streaming. I saw it for a good price, so I thought I'd pick it up. The Teal album by Weezer. And another record that I picked up from the record fair was the Super Furry Animals. So this was issued on Record Store Day this year, and it was at the record fair for £15 sealed. So it's a 7-track companion album, the first time on vinyl. So it's a companion to the album Rings Around the World, and it comes on yellow vinyl. Got the lyrics on the inner with a nice crazy character, and very nice yellow vinyl. So it's just more of the same by the Super Furry Animals, really. Anything by them, if I see it for a good price, I'm going to pick it up. And a nice addition to the collection. I was surprised to see it because we'd only had Record Store Day maybe 5 or 6 weeks earlier, and this guy had a stack of Record Store Day items that were half price. So certainly pretty competitive price at £15. Got some car boot sale stuff now, and in the summer I was at the car boot sale, found this album in a box that was 3 for a £5. So this is an upgrade on the copy I've got of Hounds of Love. Many people consider it to be Kate Bush's best album. I'm not going to disagree. It's a very good album. When I bought this, Running Up That Hill was the #1 single. So a really nice upgrade copy of Hounds of Love. It's just, you know, people say that they can't find cheap records anymore. But I think if you go to car boot sales, and you need a little bit of luck, but certainly a nice pickup for £2. In the same box, I found this album, Marshall Crenshaw. So he's an American power pop singer whose albums I very rarely see in the UK. He didn't have much success here. It looks more like an insurance salesman than a rock and roll star. But I really enjoyed this album. The first side's really strong. The second side's not far behind. Certainly didn't put me off buying any Marshall Crenshaw albums in the future. As I say, this is his second album from 1983 and it's on Warner's. And I really enjoyed it. So yeah, nice find. Marshall Crenshaw and Field Day. Also found this for £2. This was a bit of a steal. So it's Bob Marley and the Wailers and Natty Dread. So this album's from 1974. I couldn't believe when I saw this at the boot sale for £2. I was expecting it to be pretty wrecked, but it's actually in pretty good condition. A lot of people consider this to be Bob Marley's best album, but I'm a fan of Bob Marley, so I'm not too sure whether it's my favourite. But No Woman No Cries on here, and there's 9 tracks, and it's a very good album. So Natty Dread by Bob Marley and the Wailers, and also from the car boot sale, an album that you regularly see pretty cheap in the UK. China Crisis, I think this is the debut album from '82. On the hype there you can see Christian, the single, bit of a breakthrough hit for them. So China Crisis from Liverpool, the British version of Steely Dan, and Walter Becker produced one of their 80s albums and also played on it. But I'd forgotten how good this album is. I think China Crisis get a little bit overlooked, but when it comes to sort of mid-80s duos, one of my favourites. So another great band from Liverpool, duo, China Crisis. And this album's called Difficult Shapes and Passive Rhythms. I wanted to show sort of a band that they weren't really very successful in the UK, but they were sort of came around in the early 90s. They're called the Milltown Brothers. This album, Slinky, I think it's the only album they did. They were from Burnley. So on the back of sort of the Stone Roses, in Spiral Carpets, etc., there was many bands who had a crack at success. And the Milltown Brothers they weren't on the scene for very long. This album wasn't that successful. It's on A&M, but it's got some good tracks on it. I've always been fond of it. So when I saw it for a couple of quid at the boot sale, I thought I'd pick it up. The main track on here is Which Way Should I Jump, which has always been a favourite of mine. So for a couple of quid from the car boot sale, please pick up Slinky by the Milltown Brothers. I've got some 12 inches here. So I think from 82, D-Train, You're the One for Me, one of my favourite tracks. And this has been remixed by Paul Hardcastle. So I think this remix must have come out in the mid-80s. But for £1, I thought I'd pick it up. And also when I was DJing in the mid-noughties, I used to always play the House of Pain and Jump Around. So Jump Around is on the flip side of Top of the Morning to You by the House of Pain. So I'll pick this up for £1, and pretty nice pickup. Just having a look to see whether it's got the poster in, but it hasn't. So yeah, for £1, the House of Pain. And another classic on 12-inch is Funkadelic and One Nation Under a Groove. One of my favourite sort of mid-70s, well, was it about 78, 77? I found this for £1, K.D. Lang, 12-inch. So it's 4 mixes of If I Were You. And I really do like this. So it made me think that I don't have any K.D. Lang on vinyl. and maybe I might pick a couple of albums up by next year. Smoking Lounge mix, main mix, dub, the main mix and the junior X beat mix. But yeah, really enjoyed this KD Lang 12-inch. And also from the car boot sale was a Dave Brubeck album, 2 Generations of Brubeck. So this is an album that he did with his sons. I know that Dave Brubeck gets a little bit of stick by maybe the sort of jazz snobs, but Dave Brubeck's kind of in my price range, so yeah, I enjoy most of his albums. Pleased to pick this one up. I've got some 7-inch singles to show, so better get cracking. So I picked up a Japanese copy of Video Killed the Radio Star. So I've never owned a copy of this before. And this is an album that I'm after, Plastic Age. I want to pick that up next year if I can. So there's a single, and it's got Kid Dynamo on the flip side. So this was at a record fair. He had a load of Japanese singles. Picked up a few more. I'll show them in the future. Also picked up a copy of Ian Dury and What a Waste. Top 10 single from 1978. It's not on the album New Boots and Panties for some reason. Either is Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick, but really nice picture sleeve. I know people in America like to see picture sleeves. Picked up this Monkeys EP. It's got 6 tracks on it. I'm a Believer, alternative title, Someday Man, A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You, Valerie, and Pleasant Valley, Sunday. So it plays on 33. It's in good condition. Susie and the Banshees and Arabian Nights from the Juju album from 1981. And another Susie and the Banshees single, Christine. Most of these singles from the car boot sale, 50p, 4 for £1. Some of them were £1, but it's always nice to pick up these sort of new wave singles on picture sleeve in good condition. I'd not seen this on picture sleeve before. The Tourists, I Only Want to Be With You, with a very glum looking Annie Lennox there. But this was a top 5 hit in 1980, I think, or was it 79? Can't quite remember. I Only Want to Be With You, 1979. Another sort of band I've been listening to a lot over the last few months has been ABC. So this is the track Be Near Me off the How to Be a Millionaire album, which is one I'm after picking up in next year if I can. I did used to have it, but it's gone missing. So, but I mean, this track could have easily been on Lexicon of Love. It's a great track, Be Near Me. I do like it when ABC turned into cartoon characters. Duchess by Genesis, really clean picture sleeve there. It's from 1980, from the Duke album. I think Duke album's one of my favourite Genesis albums. And speaking of Dave Brubeck, I found a 7-inch single of Take 5. Pretty nice condition on Fontana. And is he my favourite Frenchman? He might be. Jean-Michel Jarre and Equinox. Maybe Zidane's my favourite Frenchman. So Equinox Part 5 from 1978. A few more singles here. R.E.M. and Everybody Hurts from the Automatic for the People album. And XTC and The Disappointed in really nice condition. One of my favourite tracks from the North Shut album. And Elvis Costello, I think this was his debut, Allison, and welcome to the working week on Stiff. And finally, from the car boot sale, some cassettes. I want to show 5 that I picked up. There was a woman selling cassettes that were 50p each, and as soon as I started looking in there, I ended up buying about 12. So Kate Bush and Essential World. Paul Weller, an album that I want to get on vinyl, Stanley Road, one of my favourite albums by him, from 93 I think. And also from 92, was it? Wildwood with the Hype. A couple of Paul Weller cassettes. And Billy Bragg and William Bloke. An album that I wasn't that familiar with, but I've been playing these cassettes. And finally, Dummy by Portishead. Again, I think it was 92. So cassettes, 7-inch singles, 12-inch singles and albums from record shops, car boot sales, etc. If you've got any comments about what I showed, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching and bye for now.